Jen Hicks of I Run Far, and I'm with Sabrina Stanley. She's the 2018 Hardrock 100 Endurance Run Women's Champion. Congratulations, Sabrina.
Thank you.
You put like all your money, all your stakes, all your eggs into the basket of this race. Is that right?
I put beyond my money into it. I put Avery's money into it. So yeah, everything was 100% focused on this race.
Okay, I want to ask you sort of about big picture approach for a minute. At the beginning of this year, your name was pulled onto the upper end of the wait list for the Hardrock Lottery. You also had a given entry into Western States courtesy of your top 10 finish there in 2017. I mean, to start a year with like close to entry to two of the coolest races out there, what was your mindset at the start of the year?
So I had no intentions of running Hardrock. I did run Rabbit as a qualifier, and I was like, okay, I can start building my ticket base. And then, in 5 years when my name is drawn, I'll be ready, and I've done all these qualifiers, and I know what I'm getting into. So when my name was pulled spot 5, I was like, okay. And I still was, because I've heard like Katie Grossman's story about waiting at the start line and not getting to run. I'm like, don't get your hopes up no matter what. And then as like the names started getting smaller and smaller, I moved up the wait list. It's like, okay, maybe I'm probably going to run. And then we talked to a few people that have been around Hardrock a lot, and they're like, you're going to run. And so decision time came, do I do both or not? And I gave up Western for Hardrock just because I didn't know the chances of me getting into Hardrock again if my luck was that good.
Yeah. And when you made that decision to pull your name out of Western States and focus on Hardrock, you were still at the top of the wait list.
Yeah.
You weren't in yet, and there was a big fire burning south of the course. So there was a lot of volatility on whether Hardrock would happen and happen for you.
Yeah. When I pulled my name from Western, before I did it, I contacted Ultra, and I'm like, do I have your blessing to do this? Because, I mean, they're both really big races, and I just wanted their support. And Mike McKnight, the team manager, is like, 100%, whatever is like your passion, do it. All right, if I left my name in Western on the chance that the fire canceled Hardrock, my training wouldn't have been there for Western. I wasn't doing any speed work at all. I wasn't really doing tempo runs. It's in all climbing and descending and like slow, long mountain days. So I didn't want to run Western unless I knew I was going to perform, and I didn't think I would. So I dropped Western, and the day I dropped it, the very next day after I dropped Western, this guy contacted me. He's like, hey, I'm giving up my spot. You're next on the wait list, and I want to make sure that you're going to represent my spot well. I'm like, I've gave up my summer for this, so of course I'm going to, I'm going to win it. That's my plan. And he's like, okay, I'm going to contact Dale. But 2 days later, Dale's like, do you want a spot? I'm like, yeah, tell me where to mail my newborn is what I told him. And he's like, you're good.
You're good. Yeah. Actually, you don't have to give us your unborn newborn.
Right. And so, yeah, here I am.
You were not shy ahead of the race about stating your goals on your personal social media feeds. You talked about wanting to win, and you talked about wanting to run under 30 hours. I mean, that sort of confidence from a woman is not a common thing. So can you just talk about that for a minute? Like, it's not even right to say like having the balls to do that, because we're women, you're a woman, but like, where does that courage and that confidence in you come from?
So I didn't know that I like possessed that. I mean, I've been the same person, but I didn't realize I came across like that. And after my interview with you after Western States, I'd multiple women email me, or friends of mine talk to me, and they're like, we've never heard a woman speak like that. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, just like there isn't really many that's that confident. And I'm like, I didn't realize that I was coming across that was unusual to be heard. And so that's just who I am. And I feel like at some point I was maybe hiding that a little bit, because like Avery knows I'm like that. My family knows I'm like that. My best friends know that I'm very confident going into anything, and I have a goal. I'm probably going to reach it, or attempt to, or keep trying until I do. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to pretend that I'm just running it for fun, or I'm doing it for whatever reason. Like that's who I am. Like I'm training for fun, and I'm training for the views, but when I'm racing to win. I'm not out there to sightsee. And so
let's just be honest. Okay?
Yeah. And so I think if you put it into the universe, if I keep saying I'm going to win, and I keep saying I'm going to break 30 hours, then I put that pressure on myself too, that I either have to do that or I'm going to look like a really big fool. And so if I came up with like a 35 plus hour finish that I was telling everybody I was going to do sub 30 and they're like, she's a lot of talk, it puts pressure on me in my training and drives me harder there too. So I think just putting it into the universe, I don't know, I believe in that concept.
In terms of the mechanics of running or going for the goal of sub 30 hours, did you write splits based upon your training on the course, based on other women who have preceded you? How did you develop your race plan?
So I looked at a lot of top women that have done it in the past, like Anna Frost, Darcy, Emma Roca, and I kind of broke down each of their races and I picked my favorite. So I went with Emma Roca's 2016 race, and I thought she ran the first half a little bit faster than I would like to.
Okay.
And I thought she ran the back half a little slower than I would like to. And so I kind of just like used that as a guideline. And I knew roughly her fitness level when she ran the race because I ran against her in Run Rabbit the following year.
Okay.
And I know her time there and I know my time. And then in my opinion, I had a rough day there. So I think I could run that course a little bit faster. So I thought I was pretty evenly matched with her. And if I was a half hour off, I wasn't going to be too upset. And so I like laminated this little timesheet and that I didn't look at it in the race, and I should have.
Did you have it with you, but you just didn't look at it?
Yeah, so I had any information. I had average mile pace between aid stations, miles between aid stations, time of day, how long you've been in the race for. Everything was broken down on this little sheet.
Wow.
And all I really looked at was the distance between aids and the mile pace.
Okay.
And I should have been looking at time of day because
that's amazing.
As I told you earlier, yeah, my math was for the time I'd been in the race to what actual time I was at. I was 4 hours off.
No.
I thought I was doing a 34-hour race and was really bummed the entire race and found out 4 miles from the finish that I don't know, maybe I could have broke 30 hours if I was in a different mindset, but I do feel like I laid everything out there, so I don't really have too many regrets.
Race starts and instantly you're at the front. Were you expecting any other earlier company, or did you kind of expect that it was just going to be you in the mountains all day?
I thought Nikki and I'm not sure how to pronounce her. Niwa is her last name.
Kaori.
Okay, yeah, I'll butcher that.
I'm butchering it a little bit. Yeah. Welcome to my life.
I thought it was going to be us three in the front, and when the gun went off, Niwa was right next to me.
Okay.
And we ran the first like 100, 200 yards kind of side by side. And then she dropped back, and I never looked back. So in my mind, the first 10 miles until Chapman, I thought Nikki was directly behind me and Niwa was right behind her.
Okay.
Or vice versa. I just thought they were breathing down my neck and they were making me set the pace. And so I was like, I'm just going to go as slow as possible. And if they want to make a move, they can, but I'm not going out for any speed records right now.
Point.
Yeah. So I ran with Brian and his group. There's about 7 to 10 of us for the first 10 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Basically 10 people hanging out in the mountains?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And they were all just chatting and having a good time and taking pictures. And like, this is awesome because I'm not stressed and I know they're behind me. And so I took it easy. And then at Chapman, Nikki came in right behind me. And when I saw her, it's like, okay, now I knew she could see me all the way up Oscar. So I'm like, I got to kind of let her know how this race is going to go. And so I pushed as hard as I could up Oscar, conservatively, of course, because there's a lot of race left.
Yeah.
But I wanted her to know that like I was out to set the bar high, kind of.
I mean, yeah, like pushing that climb up Oscar is a burly climb. Yeah. You have to do work to get there, even if you're going conservatively. Was there any risk in pushing it just a wee bit there, or were you just trying to push a little bit, but know your limits?
Yeah, we had actually done that in training, Avery and I, and we ran out of water and the sun was on us and it was so miserable. So my mindset going into that was get it over as fast as possible so you're not out here suffering the entire time.
For a minute, I thought it stopped.
Okay. Because I didn't want to be I didn't want to feel like I was up there forever suffering. So I'm like, get it out as fast as possible. And then I knew there's a long descent after that. So I was okay recovering on that descent. Okay. And so I just power hiked very strongly, hoping that she was taking note.
Well, I don't know if she took note, but you created that's where your gap really
Yeah.
started growing on the rest of the women's field, was from there on.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely got stronger from there on out. I tried running down until I ride pretty conservatively, but still having that push going. And then, I mean, going into Uray, Avery and I have talked about Camp Bird Road 1,000 times about how that can make or break your race, because it's
Sure.
a 13-mile descent and it's so runnable, and it's a struggle not to go 7:30 and just bomb it and
Get it done. And,
yeah. And so I constantly was like, do not go sub 9-minute miles. And I was like always looking at my watch to make sure I was above 9. And I kind of followed that.
Got pretty close.
Yeah.
So you've been living in Uray for the summer, and a lot of people consider in this direction Uray to be a turning point in the race, because for the front of the race, you're at the lowest altitude during the warmest part of the day. You've got this gigantic descent and then this gigantic ascent to get back in the high country again. Mentally, what was going through your head in Uray?
Because we lived there, I was very comfortable with the climb up to Engineer and the descent down into Uray. So I knew all those trails and I knew my pace on them and how it was going to go. And so we just did a long, steady climb up into Engineer. And I never thought I was like pushing too hard. It was just very consistent and not stressful at all. Because again, like I knew what was behind every corner and how to get there. And I just picked up a pacer. So we were having a good time. And yeah, it was just a very like unstressful time of the race for me.
Define good time at 50 miles into an ultra marathon.
I don't even know. We were just moving really well.
Okay.
Like we weren't stopped. And that was my kind of the entire race. That was my thing, was just keep moving. Like I don't care how fast you're going. Because when I first started training for Hardrock, one of Avery's like quotes was, "It's not who's fastest is going to win Hardrock. It's who moves through the mountains the best." Like you're not doing sprints or whatever. Just keep moving. Whatever you're doing. Like if it's power walking, that's fine. Just keep moving forward. And so that was kind of our motto. It's just always go.
I think another sort of tough point in the race is going over the high point over 14,000 feet past mile 60.
Yeah.
And add into it that it's the middle of the night at this point.
So I had Avery now.
As your pacer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he hadn't been on that section. So oddly, I was like really excited to show him my new trails. And I was like,
and this is where.
Yeah, I'm like, when you get to the top of this, you can see Handy's. It's right there. It's dark. You can't see it. And I'm like, but it's right there. Just imagine there's a 14er. And he's like, okay, just listening to me talk. And because it's night, you can see all the headlamps in front of you. So it's just like keep pushing for that next headlamp. And that next headlamp. So that's what we did. We got to American Basin. There's a nice little descent that goes back up into Handy's. So we started running that again. And then we got to Handy's. It was kind of breezy up there. It was a little bit chilly.
Okay.
My jacket would not zip for whatever reason. So I got really like we spent probably 4 to 5 minutes, which at the time seemed longer, but I was like freaking out. And he's like, let me do it. And then I was trying to do it. And I was just like, no, we got to go. We just got to go. And so I'm like running with my jacket. Like I'll get warm in like a mile down the trail.
Yeah.
So once we got, below that altitude, I really started to warm up and just I knew that trail was really runnable. So we flew down to Burroughs. I felt like we were really pushing the speed. And then Burroughs to Sherman, I want to say we were doing like sub 9-minute miles. It's just like a 3 or 4 mile section, but we were really pushing.
I don't know if you knew this at all, but when you left the Grouse Gulch aid station to climb Handy's, Darla Askew at that point was not so far behind you, just a few minutes. But then during Handy's over to Burroughs and then down to Sherman, you put loads of time, not just on her, but all of the women. Like it was game over at that point.
I didn't know that. And that probably would have freaked me out if I knew how close she was. Because I thought it was
actually, as you were zigzagging up Grouse,
yeah,
like she was coming in. The cheering you were hearing was one of them was Darla,
which I always wonder, like if that's a woman that they're cheering for. I had no idea, but I just want to put. I don't think about like putting distance on the people behind me. I think about catching the headlamp in front of me, and I just hope that the woman behind me is not having that same drive I'm doing. That. If I'd known, I probably would have pushed. I don't know. I felt like I was pushing pretty good. So I don't know. Maybe a little bit of a fear, scare tactic would have came into play, but I was pretty comfortable at that point.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I asked that question is because looking at your splits, it seemed like you were making some sort of move at that point, but I didn't know if that was you knowing about a woman
No.
being close or just because you were having a really great
Yeah,
section.
I mean, I kind of compare it to Western. Like when you come into Forest Hill, I came into Grouse and that was my Forest Hill, and I'm like, okay, game on now. Like
Uh-huh.
I've been pacing myself, I've been holding back, and now I can finally let loose. And when I picked up Avery at mile 60 at Leadville, and we did the same thing. It's just
Mm.
when I get to that mile 60 point, and especially if Avery's my pacer, we just the energy between us is really fun just to start cruising, and we really enjoy running together, especially for I call fast. He's probably just jogging. So like coming down Handy's, we were having a blast, and then going down to Sherman as well.
Let me ask you a little bit about nutrition. That's a hard thing for people to nail for not only 100 miles, but 100 miles at this altitude.
Yeah.
How was yours? How'd it go?
Perfect. It was
Really?
on point. Yeah. So I wake up really early and make sure I go to the bathroom before the race and everything. So there's no need to stop
Mm.
until way later in the race. And so when I started running, then I hold my pee as long as I possibly can, just so that I am not wasting. Like I feel like if I can save 30 seconds peeing, because I have one less pee break, like that's 30 seconds.
Amazing.
Because I don't know, like
I'm adding in my pee breaks.
what if that 30 seconds was the difference between me doing 30 hours or 29, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
yeah, and then eating, I make sure and get some calories in before the run, and then every half hour I make sure and have minimum 100 calories,
Mm.
and then I also drink my electrolyte mix. And then every single aid station I eat. On Hardrock, I had either pumpkin pie or they had these amazing rice balls, and so I had 2 rice balls at every single aid station. And I try not to waste time chewing, so like the softer the better. Like Run Rabbit had pancakes, so whatever I can like mush up and just shove in my mouth, chug some water, and like swallow it
You have
without.
an iron stomach.
I try
Kinda,
to, yeah, I
yeah.
try to for sure.
Pancakes, rice balls.
Yeah.
This is amazing, actually.
Yeah, and then not to overheat your body. I think by pushing too hard, if you overheat your body, then your stomach, I that's when I would like the most common stomach problems
Mm.
happen. So if I'm pushing too hard too early, then my nutrition's off the whole race. So
Uh-huh.
I think just keeping my pace and control early on is key.
At the end of the race, it ends with 2 pretty brutal climbs, like the
Yes.
climb out of Maggie up to Buffalo
Mhm.
Boy and the climb out of Cunningham to Little Giant. They're just so steep.
They are. So after we left Pole Creek,
Mm.
I would say I kind of started to struggle. That's
Okay.
when the first like cracks in the armor started showing. And it was mainly physical, but it really affected me mentally. I was like, I'm not moving as fast as I should be. Oh my God, these women are gaining on me. Like,
But you didn't know. This is just in your head.
oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I always think that I have to move faster because if in my mind, if Nikki comes around that corner and sees a female, sees my pink hat, she's gonna know it's me and she's gonna start pushing harder. So I'm like, get around the next corner before she gets around that last corner,
Uh-huh.
and just keep doing that. So I'm like freaking out that she's chasing me. So we came into Pole Creek, and leaving there, it was a really big struggle.
Okay.
We didn't like hang out there, but just that next section was horrible. So
Do I have to leave?
yeah, coming into Maggie, I was like, okay, just keep moving. There was this guy, I forget his name, from Denver that we started. I've done that section, but I'm not sure if I did it right. And so I'm like, we're going to follow him. And he had run the race. It was a second attempt or second finish. So I'm like, oh, we'll just run with him and like it'll pace me as well. He paced a little bit faster than I'd like to have gone, but we knocked out that section. And then Little Giant climb it was horrible. I completely
like
fell apart.
2 miles and 2,600 feet of climb. Some sort of stupid
Yeah,
amount of
it's
vertical shoved
straight
in.
up.
Yeah.
And I'd done that one as well in training. And in training, it was really smooth. And so going into it, I thought it was going to be easier than it was. And multiple times, I mean, I was just being a baby. It's like, this is the hardest climb of my life. And just like,
every climb I've done has paled in
Yeah.
comparison.
and I'm just like throwing myself, having Avery listening to this, just like, oh, this is miserable. I can't, but like, I don't know. And I keep apologizing for going so slow and all this stupid stuff. And he's like, you're fine. You're just moving. Just keep moving.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I thought I should be. Like, it's not like I could have ran up it. I mean, I was hiking. So
Tempo workout.
yeah. And so I kept moving, but that climb lasted
Hmm.
a lifetime. It took forever. And then the descent was just as miserable.
Okay.
Yeah, there was one runner behind us that we knew was a male. And then there was 3 runners that were 200 yards behind him. And Avery's like, I don't know if that's a female. I don't know if she's a pacer, but you have to go. And I had been in wet. I only changed my socks at Grouse. So I'd been in wet socks all day, and the bottoms of my feet were like really, really raw and painful. And he's like, you have to run. You have to run. And I thought there's possibly a female catching me. So we kept going, and we actually asked one of the I Run Far volunteers, we're like, is that a woman? Like, how far back is she? He's like, she's an hour and a half back. And so we ran all the way down to the single track that leads you right into town. And like the last 100 yards of it, Avery's like, there's a woman behind you, sprint. And I was like, are you sure? She was an hour and a half back. There's no way. And we're just like, I'm talking like, which at the time is fast, like 8:30-minute sprints.
Coming across town
at mile 99. Yeah. And he's like, go, 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 go. And he's like, they both have on packs, and it's 2 females, and it's a racer. And it was Amy Sprostin. And he's like, she's pacing Darla. And I'm like, what? Like, how did Darla catch me? And he's like, just run, stop asking questions. And I kept saying, are you sure? Are you sure? And he's like, I can't tell. I'm like, you have to know. And like, I'm panicking because I've had the lead for 99.5 miles.
You think this is the end right here.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's no way I can have the lead that long and then lose it right here. So as we're sprinting, we get into the streets of town, and he's like, it's Wardian. It's Michael Wardian. And I'm like, oh, thank God. He's like, well, keep sprinting. You can still probably beat him. I'm like, I'm never going to beat Michael Wardian in a sprint, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'll take my finish.
So, in fairness to Avery, he did see a ponytail.
He did.
Yeah. It was just Michael Wardian.
Yes.
Ponytail.
And they were a ways back, and he'd been running with me for 15 hours and had been up all day the day before. So, and he's like running, trying to look back. So I'm glad he said something, because if it had been, but I was a little grouchy. I'm like, don't do that to me. He's like, what, try to save your race?
No, scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, I was full panic mode.
I think you said at the finish line yesterday, and you also said just a few minutes ago before our interview, that you already have the intention of returning next year.
For sure. I mean, I'd like to do the course in both directions. And also, I really, really want to break 30 hours. That's my goal. So
yeah, so in the end, you came in at about 30 and a half. Is that right?
30, 23, yeah.
30.
Yeah.
That was 23 minutes. I'm thinking of all of them.
I know, for sure. I personally, looking back though, I think I ran a really smart race. There's no aid station where I was like, you really wasted a lot of time here. I don't know my aid station splits combined though. The climb up Little Giant and the descent, I think I wasted a lot of time.
Okay.
Well, I don't know 23 minutes, but I feel like there's definitely room for improvement that last 20 to 15 miles.
You've already sort of like spent this summer, like sort of physically, psychologically committed. I mean, you've lived in the San Juans.
Yeah.
You've been living and dreaming, Hardrock, like.
For sure.
Yeah. Are you going to put the same amount of intention into next year's race then?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
I would. Before I was running competitively, I would say I did the same thing with Leadville. Okay. When I first learned of hundreds, I did Leadville year 1, and it was essentially my life. And I failed. I didn't finish that year, so I came back next year with the same drive and finished. So it was 2 years, and like everything was Leadville. So 2 years for Hardrock I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, especially this course, like it's unreal.
Yeah, and going the other direction, it makes it almost a whole different race.
That's what I hear. I'm really excited. And looking at the top 10 times for females, I think all but 3 of them are on odd years.
Okay.
And so it should be, in my mind, hopefully 23 minutes faster.
Here we go then.
Yeah, definitely.
Sub 30 for Sabrina.
2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you on your win of the 2018 Hardrock.
Thank you so much.
And # see you in Silverton next year.
For sure.